Thank you all so much for coming. We're still letting a few folks in, but thank you all so much for coming today. We'll be getting started here shortly. Hopefully you're having a good day so far. Where I am in Mississippi, the weather is really nice. So hopefully if you're in a cold place, you can channel some of that sun that I'm bringing you from down here. Hello, everyone, for coming in. We'll get started in just a minute. Hi, Estelle. I saw you in the chat. Hello, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you can mute your mic, if possible, we also will mute you. So if you can go ahead and mute your mic, that would be great. That helps us just with our sounds here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you come in, if you could just mute your mic. So again, hello, happy International Women's Day. Today, just so you know, International Women's Day is on March 8th and it's celebrated all around the world. And it's really a focal point to really talk about women's rights. So this year's theme for International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. So we can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements on this day and for the entire month, which is Women's Month. So collectively, we can all do this, right? To help create an inclusive world. So if you're on social media, again, today's challenge is choose to challenge. So I would just say, if you go on social media, hashtag it, hashtag choose to challenge. So again, we appreciate all of you all for being here today. My name is Aisha DeBerry, and I'm based here in Georgia for the Diversity Office, but I bring greetings from our Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Pickron Davis, and then our team, Natasha, Jennifer, and Alicia Hahn Murphy. We all say thank you and welcome for coming. Today, we want to honor Dr. Meta Christie. And Dr. Meta Christie, after 22 years of PCOM's founding, then called PCIO, she was not only the first African-American woman to graduate from the college, but she was the first African-American to receive a doctorate in osteopathic medicine. And so today we entitle our talk, Standing on Her Shoulders. And we took that title from the Digest, which is actually our publication that comes out from our Office of Marketing and Communications, to really talk about what it is like now to be a Black woman physician. So we've brought together to you 4 Black women from PCOM who are alumni. And I want them to share with you, and I'm sure you'll gather from them, some of their advice, how they show up now in their respective fields and how they're choosing to challenge the profession that they're in. So before I go into that, just a few housekeeping rules. If you could mute your mic, we will have Q&A at the end. So feel free to put your questions in the chat box. And also this is recorded. So it will be on our webpage in the coming days if you want to share it with family and friends. So got that out of the way, mute those mics, and this will be recorded. Now let me introduce you to our moderator from today. She is student Dr. Jadavia Schaefer. Student Dr. Schaefer, she's actually one of ours at PCOM Georgia. She's in her 2nd year. She's a Georgia Peach. She from Macon, Georgia. She went to Valdosta State. She's actually president of our Student National Medical Association for the Georgia campus. And a fun fact about her is outside of pursuing medical school, she actually wanted to be a large animal aquatic veterinarian. However, she's still a lover of huge animals. So without further ado, I will pass the torch on to student Dr. Jadavia.
Thank you so much, Miss Aisha. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. Yes, a ripe Georgia peach, born and raised here in Georgia. And yes, a large lover of animals. I have 2 huge dogs right now. They're back there. If you like to see them, I'll show you later on. Yes, so thank you all for joining us today. I'm super excited that all of you took time away from your work and your studies to join us today. So before we get started, I wanted to kind of shed some light on what we're doing here at PCOM Georgia, since today is International Women's Day. So we actually just appointed our first female dean here at PCOM Georgia. So she's the new dean of the osteopathic medicine program. I know, super excited. So her name is Dr. Andrea Mann, and she graduated from LECOM. So that's Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine in 1999. And she served as the assistant dean of clinical education at Campbell University School of Osteopathic Medicine for 5 years before joining us here at PCOM. So we're really, really excited to have her. Super, super lucky to have our first woman dean of the medical school here, and have no doubts that she'll bring some amazing things to our program. So without further ado, I'll introduce our lovely panelists. So before I ask any questions to these lovely women, I'd like each of them to introduce themselves. So name, your specialty, what school you graduated from, or what campus you graduated from, your current location, and what you like to do for fun. So we'll start with Dr. Carter.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, I am Dr. Tamika Carter. I am a graduate from PCOM Georgia campus, class of 2009. I was the first class to graduate. I am currently located in Los Angeles, California. I am an internal medicine physician. I was practicing as a hospitalist for over a decade, and I'm currently doing outpatient with a little bit of moonlighting on the side and internal medicine hospitalist work. And currently, for fun, I'm a well-rounded individual, but I do a lot of baking, traveling, fitness. Yeah, so I enjoy it all.
Nice. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Dr. Myers.
Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Janie Dr. Myers, and I am an advanced laparoscopic robotic surgeon. I am a PCOM grad, the original school. And one of the interesting facts is I graduated the 100th year of the school. So I graduated with 20 other Black physicians, and I had a class of 265. And I believe from what I read, the Medic Christie, we're celebrating the 100th year for that today too. So I thought that was a very interesting fact of the matter. As a surgeon, I am very, what's the word I want to say, active in my national organization, American Colleges of Surgeons. I am the past chair of all the osteopathic surgeons. I'm currently a board of governor for that college, as well as the chair of the local chapter here where I live, which I haven't told you. I'm currently in Terre Haute, Indiana. And recently I decided to do something totally different because I got asked. I am now the county coroner for my county, which I am the first Afro-American person countywide to have the position that I'm in. For y'all who probably don't know, in a county, you have the prosecutor for power. Number two is the coroner, and we're over the sheriff, meaning the fact that I'm the only one that can arrest the sheriff without a warrant. So that's me in a nutshell. What I do for fun is I love spending time with my family. As a surgeon, I waited till I was 40 to have my first child. So I'm older. So when I'm actually paying for retirement, I'll be paying for college. So yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. I like traveling as well as playing video games and watching movies. I am honored to be here with the rest of these ladies today, and thank you very much for inviting me.
That's amazing, Dr. Myers. Thank you so much for sharing. Dr. Houston.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Houston, class of 2014, Georgia PCOM. I am an urgent care physician and also do skilled rehab, as well as working with the GME, Graduate Medical Education Office, helping with resident education at the Northeast Georgia healthcare system that I work for. And I'm a mom of 2 boys, so they occupy a lot of my time. I also enjoy traveling whenever this pandemic is over, and then movies, and lots of movies, and just spending time with the family. And I'm very excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Houston. Dr. Falk?
Good afternoon there. It's still morning here where I am, but I'm Tarra Faulk. I am a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor. I did graduate as these other young ladies here from Georgia campus PCOM in 2010. So that was the second class that graduated from that campus. I am also a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. So I'm active duty, and my current duty station is in San Antonio, Texas, where I am also the chief of medical staff. And let's see, for fun, I have 4 children, married, and as we all know, I won't be traveling anytime soon, but I love to travel as well. I guess being cooped up in the house, I recently started a podcast. So that allows me to mentor and connect people in my life who are doing amazing things. So that's what I'm doing while I'm stuck in the house.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Falk. And as you can see, everyone, we have a wonderful group of women here on our panel today, fully seasoned. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as they talk. And yeah, so we'll get started with the first question, which is for Dr. Carter. And the first question that we have is, what advice would you give women who are first generation graduates trying to get into medical school or trying to break it into the medical field?
So if you don't remember anything that I say, remember that don't let other people define your path or your profession. And what I mean by that is, especially as first generation, we have this idea of what we feel like being a physician or being in a medical field period should look like. And also we get influences, whether it's family, friends, outside information or resources where we feel like this is how, my career, my profession has to look. But I say, remember that, remember you have to put yourself first. And you have to keep that in consideration when you're choosing whatever field you decided to go into, whether it is being a physician or a veterinarian or a dentist, or, there's so many other choices that you can do as far as medicine. But yeah, just say, remember what you're doing, what your purpose is, and why you're doing it. But also you want to be reasonable. It is a career. This is something that you will be doing for, if not your entire life, the majority of your life. So you want to do something that, is where your passion is, where you're comfortable. Also consider your lifestyle. As you can see, as a woman, we have other things that we have to consider, whether, it be a family, children, and other passions, as, we don't have to feel like being in the medical field is a single lane profession. Like I mentioned, I do a lot of baking, and, a lot of people are gonna want to say, well, you can't do that. What are you doing? You're a physician. Why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to do that? Why do you feel like being a physician is not enough? To each his own. Do what makes you happy. If you're going into medicine, do your research, figure out what your lifestyle is going to be like. It's a very important decision, and you don't want to choose a path where you find out later on that you're not doing something, or you don't have the time to do the other things that you actually have interest in doing. So like I said, make sure you're doing what you want to do because that's what you want to do, and not what others want you to do or what you feel like you need to do. You have to make the decision and decide for yourself. And yeah, so that's one thing I would say to remember. Also, don't be afraid to say no or I don't know. Sometimes we feel like, okay, I have this degree now. You're supposed to automatically know everything. No, that's not how things work. As a physician, you have to remain humble, and it's okay to say, I don't know. We've done all these tests. we've done all these reports, and sometimes we still don't know, that's why it's called idiopathic. We don't know everything as physicians or whatever field you go into. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I don't know. There's going to be times where people are going to push you to try to do things that you don't feel comfortable doing. And it doesn't matter if you're a med student, if you're a resident, no matter where you are in your field, it's okay to say no to whoever your director is, your superiors. You're still a person. You still have to put yourself first. And if you don't feel comfortable doing something, it's okay to voice that. Don't feel, pressure to have to do something just because somebody tells you to do it. And then my last note that I have is try to learn about business. They don't tell you this when you go into any type of medical profession, that medicine it's a lot of business overlap. I wish I knew some business skills that I don't necessarily did not know, but medicine is unfortunately like a business in some aspects. So it is helpful, especially if you're going into primary care, private practice, to know how to run a business, whether it's basic skills, but you're going to be managing a lot of people outside of yourself. So if you can pick up some business skills, whether that be, an online class, or if you go into a master's program, but learning some type of business knowledge is going to be helpful in the long run. So those are my points. But yeah, like I said, the most important thing I would say out of all of that is don't let other people define what choices you want to make, whichever path you choose.
Nice. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. And you hit a lot of really, really good points, especially the balance aspect of everything, especially now during COVID times and everything. That seems to be a big emphasis on balance. And so really, really grateful for that gem, especially right now. Okay, so our next question is for Dr. Myers. And Dr. Myers actually has a video that she'd like to show us all before she answers her question.
You can go ahead and ask me the questions.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so the question for Dr. Myers is, what do you think has been the most significant barrier to being a female physician for you? And how have you overcome these barriers?
So thank you very much for asking me. I'm going to answer the first question. What do I think is the strongest barrier for me to overcome, especially as a surgeon? I think it's especially for all women, being women in general, but also being a Black woman. And I'm going to piggyback on what Dr. Carter said. Don't let people put you in a box, right? Don't let people define you. But also, I'm going to piggyback on that. Don't let people's perceptions define what kind of person you're going to be, because perceptions for me is like the strongest barrier I came across. The perception that, oh, I can't be a woman and do this, or I'm not going to be there for my family, or I can't do this at the same time. I can't tell you how many times people told me, you sure you want to be a surgeon? Don't you want to do this? Are you sure? And I've had other people say, oh, you're too nice to be a surgeon. I think the biggest, strongest thing is the perception of what they think a woman should be, and better yet, what you should be. So I came across this a couple years ago, and I kept it because I thought it's a short little video, but I thought it kind of summed up what I think that we all should know as women, what we need to do. Alicia, can you play this video for me?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going
Thank you so very much. So this kind of sums up so much. We are constantly defined by others. So the way to answer that question, what do we do to make things better? I think you need to know your worth. You need to know the kind of person that you want to be. Don't let others, as Dr. Carter said, put you in a box or put you in a position where you're not truly comfortable, because the bottom line of all of this is that you should do a job that you love. I went through some hard rocks. Took me a little bit longer just because you're gonna, no matter what you do, you're gonna hit failure. Your job is to learn from that failure and keep moving on and be at a place in your life where there, now that my life is not totally perfect, but I can truly say I love what I do. And one of the things to do that is you need to learn your worth. And when someone gives you with the failure, because that's the most salient points to be successful in life, which I thought was interesting. You have to fail. You have to fail a lot to get where you need to be. And with that failure, you need to learn how to learn from that failure. So then you also need a good support group. And the support group can go from many different people and many different places. But as I told you earlier, I love movies. And one of the things I watched on Netflix, and sometimes I watch documentaries, was about Steven Spielberg and how he became successful. He had some friends, George Lucas was one of them, that they were able to be in the room together, be competitive, but they supported one another. How many times are we in the room with other people and it's not very supportive? So you need to be careful of the people that you surround yourself with. I wish in my life I had people like that that were supportive, but also were able to be critical, and we just pushed ourselves forward. And if you do not have that in your life and you can't find it, be confident in yourself, know your worth, and use what people might put a pressure on you to be negative, turn that into a positive. Because I still remember what those people said. I remember who said it. And that has just pushed me, because I was like, you know what? You say I can't do something, I can do it. All I have to do is put my mind to it. It might take me a little bit longer, but the bottom line of it is just keep pushing. So thank you very much for asking me that question.
Absolutely, no problem. And again, hitting on some really, really good key points there, especially one that resonated with me is you can remember who says what about you and using that as fuel to essentially prove them wrong, really, and doing it for yourself, of course, especially being in a super competitive specialty, being a Black female surgeon. I know you come across those things often. So thank you so much for that amazing advice.
Thank you.
No problem. So our next question is for Dr. Houston. And the question is, what advice do you have about balancing work and home life? Often we, as women, are really considered like the glue that holds the family together, especially our spouses, children, different family members look at us as, kind of the foundation of everything. So what kind of advice would you give to women who are looking to start families and also looking to show up as their best selves professionally? I believe you're muted, Dr. Houston.
All right, sorry about that. So I was saying, so just, as medical students, we fall into the trap of sacrificing our personal time with our families and loved ones to do things like studying, prep for everyday rotations, and just learn our craft. So we've already fallen into this trap, and it doesn't get any easier when you become an attending, especially if you're a woman and juggling marriage, families, children, it can only become more complicated. So when we talk about work-life balance, we're not talking about an equal 50-50 share of work and family. So, a couple of tips that I would say is, first, lose the perception that you can either have this or that, either or, when you can have both. Sometimes it may be, work takes 60% and family takes 40, but the point is to find a balance that works for your life where you can be happy. So that's going to vary from person to person. The second thing I would say is, limit your distractions and things that are just non-essential. You can't spend 10 hours a day on Facebook, or searching the internet, Googling, things like that, because that's going to cut down on your productivity at work, and it's going to cut down on the intimate moments that you can be sharing with your family instead. So, kind of prioritizing what's most important in that situation. The third thing is, learn to unplug. So kind of that goes back to, when you leave the office, leave the office. When you finish your rotation, be done with it, come home, and now you're home, and you have to separate the two things. And that's more of an emotional thing that, that we have to learn, because it's easy to come home, still think about the day you had at work, think about all the things you left undone, become tempted to check work emails, take calls from, nurses and other people calling you. And so it's easy to let medicine encompass your whole life 24/7. So you definitely have to set some boundaries. So I cut off from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. So, you ask yourself, if someone calls you during that time, is this important? Is it urgent? Does it have to be addressed? If not, ignore until 6 a.m. And I think another thing is important is, when you come home, you need to walk in the door excited to see your family, because that sets the entire mood for the rest of your night with them. So, some days you may only get home at 8 p.m. You don't want to spend the 1 hour you see, if you have small children, with them seeing you tired, stressed. So you want to set the mood when you come home. You want to let them know that you've missed them all day and you're so happy to see them. And that's going to mean more to them than you know. I think a fourth thing is to, communicate your needs and rely on other people. So, one thing is you have to pick a good spouse. You have to pick, someone that's going to support your dreams as much as you support theirs. And so, we can't do it all. As women, we're expected to sometimes take care of the household, the kids, and, do this important job of taking care of other people as well, other patients, things like that. And sometimes you just have to realize you need help. So things like, having people deliver your food, Uber Eats or Shipt, all of these other companies, cut an hour off of your grocery shopping time, get a housekeeper, spend a couple extra $100, a month and do that. That'll take a lot of time off of your hands. Getting someone to drop your kids off at daycare, just asking for that help to free up your time so that you can spend it on other things, like spending time with your family. And then the last thing is take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to have that emotional energy to devote to anyone else. So if your tank's on empty, then you're not going to have anything to give to anyone else. So definitely you have to take time to do things that recharge your battery. And, whether it's, getting a manicure, a pedicure, reading a book, taking 10 minutes at night to meditate, if you're not refueling your engine, it's going to be a bad situation for everyone. And I think that's about all I have to say about that. But again, the balance is unique to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Houston. And again, it seems like the theme here is balance, balancing everything and making sure that you're happy and taking care of yourself. Thank you so much again, Dr. Houston. Okay, our next question is for Dr. Falk. And the question is, if you've dealt with any, how have you overcome any negative encounters with male colleagues? Things such as being talked over, being ignored, sexist comments, or not being taken as seriously as others?
Sure, thank you for that question. But before I answer that question, I do just want to take one moment and say, I appreciate Dr. Houston's comments, because you don't get this kind of stuff in medical school, or at least when I was going through medical school, I didn't hear about balance. We were all just really pushing harder and harder each day, trying to achieve. And I think it's very important that you take the time now, early on, to set those kind of boundaries in your life, because I'll tell you, once you get to become a physician and people are taking from all over you, they're just going to be taking. If you don't know how to set boundaries, you will not be able to come back from that very easily. I mean, sometimes it's people have to break before they actually realize what they need to do for themselves. And so I really appreciate that. And I hope that everyone can at least put that in your pocket, because you may not realize how much you need it right now, but in the future, you're going to figure out that, man, I need to set boundaries in my life all around so that I can protect myself and be the best either physician or mother or whatever you need to be. You got to set those boundaries. So definitely, I'm going to answer my question now. Okay, so I do have experience with this. And just to go back, being a nephrologist, nephrology is a male-dominated specialty. I mean, the military is male-dominated. And actually, I mean, if you look around corporate environments and things like that, it is pretty male-dominated, and we haven't gotten to a point where we're past that. So in my experience, or a specific situation that I had, I did have a person who, of course, he was a male, and he was actually my supervisor. And he was kind of making decisions that affected me without my knowledge. I wouldn't find out until well, basically it would be too late. And so he was making these decisions, and I do believe in some part he was making them because they benefited him. And I just happened to get the short stick in that. Additionally, I would get criticized for the decisions that I was making in my leadership roles. I felt like people were overly critical of those decisions, but also making an effort that I could see where they were checking up on me. So, I would be given a task, and then as I'm doing my task and getting things done, I would know that people were coming behind me trying to figure out how far along I was, or what I was doing, or, why I was doing X, Y, and Z. And I guess another thing was that I also realized that, when I was doing things well, I wasn't getting praised as loudly or as often as my male counterparts. And so I guess after a while, this took a toll, and I just realized it was the same person doing the same thing over and over again. And so I think it's timely, and it's interesting that Aisha at the beginning said, you have to choose to challenge. And so I had to make a choice of whether I'm just going to keep getting pushed back into the corner, or I'm going to challenge. And so I thought about it. it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy decision. And I did seek counsel to kind of, figure out how I should approach my challenge, but I ended up challenging that person. And so what I did was I scheduled a meeting with him, and we did it behind closed doors. And I laid out everything that I felt to be a problem for me and how I perceive things. And I allowed him to give his side and to counter what I said, but at least I was able to get in a situation where I could challenge and lay out the things that I felt were I was being slighted on, or I wasn't being treated fairly about. So with that, I do want to kind of lay out some advice and some things that I want to, just impart on you because of that situation. So first, I think I had to kind of, in my mind, think about whether I thought this person was being malicious versus just ignorant or having privilege. And so either way, I would say whether you think, once you deduce it down and you think that someone is being malicious, you're still going to have to confront them. And even if you think that they don't have ill intent, you still have to confront them, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you back yourself into a corner and the only thing you have is to be unprofessional, or to react in a way that then puts a stigma or a label on you. So I'd say that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you still have to challenge. If you feel like you're being treated unfairly, you have to challenge. And so with that, I leave you with a few bits of advice as well. One, I don't see any role that any of us are going to have on this call where we're not going to be challenged. So just know that at some point you will be challenged. And it may be intentional. It also may be accidental. But either way, you have to address that situation, and you should put yourself in a situation where you can be professional in that. And so that's why I think that you need to make sure that as soon as you start to see a trend in the way people are treating you, you need to address it face to face with them head on and early, so that you don't get in a situation where, you are retaliating, or you're angered by what's going on, or you're even in a situation where you're not happy to come to work. So you will be challenged is my first thing, and you have the ability to get ahead of that and make sure that people don't take from you what they don't have the right to take. So that's what I have to say about that.
Wow, that's amazing, Dr. Falk. And this is Dr. Hendrick in the chat put, unfortunately, Dr. Falk's experience persists, as even those of us who have been out of school for over 20 years are still being questioned about our decisions and then not being given credit when you're doing something great. And as you mentioned, I know that that's something that we either already encountered or will encounter in our future during our careers. And having the courage, I think, is one of the biggest things. Having the courage to be able to confront those situations head on is a big point to make. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Falk. And our last question here is open to all of the panelists. And the question is, what advice would you give the next generation of female physicians? And feel free, feel free.
I think we answered all our questions today. We all took it from a different point of view because it all affects us all. And we are women, and we are expected to do certain things that our male counterparts are not being treated as or expected to do. But I think when we all answered our questions, we basically gave you something to do. Know your balance, know your worth, surround yourself with good people. If you're being challenged, I'm just gonna be honest, I usually pigeonholed as the angry Black woman. So I document, like any other person, and I try to treat those challenges that Dr. Falk was talking about with data, not with emotions, with data.
I would just like to reiterate what Dr. Myers said earlier about failure. Like, yes, failure is a part of the process. You know, we're not taught that failure is going to come, that we're all going to experience it. You know, usually when you're going into medicine, you're type A, you're used to being straight A's, top of the class, you know, but failure comes. Like, as a medical student, that was the first time I ever failed an exam. Like, I failed one of my steps. I don't even remember what step it was. At that point, it was all a blur. But, you know, things are going to happen like that. Don't feel like, oh, well, I failed. I must be a terrible med student. I guess this is not the career path for me. So you know, I'm not saying that's going to happen for everybody, but don't feel like a step back is the end of your path. It's not. Like Dr. Myers said, use that fuel to push you forward. Learn from that failure and push yourself forward to be even better than you were when you first experienced that failure. Yeah, I mean, failure comes in all different aspects in different ways, but you have to learn from it and do better. So yeah, don't feel like that's the end, no matter whether it's an exam, a test, or you know, lawsuit, whatever it may be, but that is a part of the process.
So I do have something a little bit separate than what or what we've all mentioned, and I just want to bring it up. So mental health, and I believe there's a stigma. There still is a stigma about mental health and high functioning people, and you know, being in medicine, and all of the things that are encompassed with that, in addition to maybe building families, raising families, keeping families together. All of that can be stressful. And, you know, sometimes I think high functioning people believe that they can't have illness, or they can't fail. So it goes also back to, you know, not being able to fail. Well, you can fail, as has already been reiterated and stated, but you also just may need help and you can't get through certain things. So similar to what Dr. Houston was saying, you know, I have Uber Eats deliver several times per month. I have people I can talk to, but not everybody does have someone to talk to. So I would say don't neglect mental health. And if you need help in that realm, don't be afraid to seek out a professional for that, to help you get through times. And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you need a little help. So I would definitely, if you're in school, or if you're going through residency, or any part of your training or life, if you need help, get help. And that would include help for your mental well-being as well.
I think all of the ladies have made excellent points. Only thing that I could add was I would say, you know, shoot for the moon. Don't let your fear of going into a specialty hinder your decision and the choice that you make for your career. Again, like Dr. Myers was saying, don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. If your heart is set on surgery, neurosurgery, you want to be a cardiothoracic specialist, whatever you want to be, you do it, and everything else will fall into place. I think, again, there's a lot of stigma where we think some specialties are just, you know, just for men. And, you know, that's not the case, but we just definitely have to pave a way for ourselves and not be, you know, afraid to make that journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Myers, were you going to?
No problem. I just wanted to tell you, I put into the chat a book that I found that goes a little bit into, let's see if I can get it so it shows good. There you go. That goes into exactly what perceptions of what society places in. So I just wanted to tell you, I did put that into the chat so people can see that and look at that. The next data based on how we are viewed.
Okay, definitely going to check that out. Thank you so much, Dr. Myers. There's also another book, I'm plugging it, from one of our lovely panelists, Dr. Houston, that I'm putting in the chat here. It's found on Amazon and it's called The Chronicles of Women in White Coats. So please check that out. Check both of these books out. We have about 15 minutes left. So if there's anyone that, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And if not, thank you so much for coming. But there are 81 people here. I'm hoping that someone someone has a question.
One other thing I'd like to say, check me out in GOMA's April newsletter, where I talk about food insecurity, and consider donating to your local food bank, because people really need it during this time right now.
Definitely, definitely. We'll check that out, GOMA. Let's see, I'll make sure that I'm trying to like mark all of these pages, so I'll be sure to check y'all out. Also, Dr. Carter has a couple of businesses. So one question that we have for you is, how did you get started in your business, especially being a full physician?
So to be honest, I started baking in medical school. That was one of my outlets for stress. I was spending all my time studying and I was like, I can't just do studying all the time. So that's actually when Grey's Anatomy, I think, had first started, and Liz, or Is, when she was like baking. And so, yeah, that just like really, like, I was like, okay, this is my calling. So I started baking in medical school and I continued it into residency. And so I did my residency in Chicago, and people like just started, I would like bring stuff in and people were like, well, can I order this? So I actually started like an online bakery while I was in residency, just something small where I could do small little orders and then like deliver them if I needed to. But like I mentioned before, like learning business skills, it's helpful because not only in, your medical aspect, but if you do plan on doing something outside of medicine, which I feel like we all should do something that's not affiliated with medicine. But you learn as you go, especially these days, things are different as far as purchasing, and there's a lot of influence more on social media. But you have to put yourself out there. And like Dr. Myers and I mentioned before, you can't be afraid to fail. And do something that you want to do. Like I created my sprinkle company last year, my online sprinkle company, just because I was really passionate about the Black Lives Matter movement. I was doing all these protests, even though we're social distancing. And I was like, I feel like I need to use my own talents and to still, put my voice out there. And so I felt like there was a need, but even if nobody bought any sprinkles, I still felt like the need was there. I'm still enjoying myself. Even if nobody buys any of my products, it's something that I love and it makes me happy and it's helped me get through this pandemic. So just put yourself out there, no matter if people buy your products or not. At least it's out there, it's a start, and we all have to start somewhere. Don't expect you're gonna start and a month down the line, you're gonna be this multi-million-dollar platform. No, everybody started somewhere. Everybody had to start with the basics, and you just work yourself up. And like I would say, this is what I do. I take things one day at a time, whether that's my career, whether that's my business. So for my business, I make myself do at least 10 minutes of business work a day, whether that's a social media post, whether that's coming up with new concepts for sprinkles, whether that's working on advertisements. But if you put in just a little bit of work every day, that adds up. It doesn't require much, but it requires consistency.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. And your Instagram looks very, very attractive. And the cupcakes, done everything looks really, really good. So thank you so much for sharing. We do have a couple of questions. We do have a couple of questions pouring in. One from Brandy states, how important was mentoring during your medical education, and how do you choose who to mentor now? And that's a
It's very important. I was waiting for somebody to answer. Mentoring is very important, and as I said, you need to surround your people that are going to be supportive but also critical. You can't have a bunch of yes people because they're not helping you think out of the box. So right now, what I do for mentoring, I mentor medical students. I have medical students from Marian University, as well as I have a couple PAs that come through. I also, as I said before, I do a lot for my national organization. And so from there, I try to do things that would represent all of the osteopathic surgeons in United States, but mentoring is very much needed because, and I think we alluded to this over and over again, you need that balance, but also you need someone who's just going to listen to you when you just want to just scream. Because it's hard at times and you just need some time to decompress. And so it's needed.
So I wanted to add on to that, what Dr. Myers was saying. I would say that mentorship comes in varying forms as well, especially during medical school. So I don't think that I didn't have a professional mentor, meaning a physician to speak to me about my career during medical school. But what I did have was a group of students who were my peers, and we had a study group basically, and we, bounced ideas off each other. We were support for each other, and I would say that that's a mentoring relationship as well. So I don't want you to think that you have to seek out someone and force some kind of relationship. Some of those things too are natural relationships that you have during medical school or the other. And so I would definitely say, reaching back though, I think it's important to have these discussions like this type of forum so that people can hear where people are and ask questions, because I think that physicians all around, they want to talk to you about what you're going through because they've been through it, and your family members may not know or be able to share experiences with you. And so we love this. I love this, being able to answer questions and help you and say, you're not alone. We've experienced this before, and let me help you navigate it so that you don't have to, so it doesn't have to be so painful for you. So I believe those relationships are very important, as Dr. Myers stated. You need to have someone to talk to, whether it's a mentor or a peer mentor or a classmate or anyone on the campus. You should have that. It's very important.
okay. All right. We do have a question in the chat for Dr. Falk, specifically from Nicole, and she asked if there are any unique challenges that you found in military medicine, and how do you navigate those? She's an M4 Army student.
Yes, hi Nicole. So there is uniqueness in the military, and just if I can kind of, because I don't think everyone is very familiar about military and things like that. So one, let me give you a little bit of a history. So I was previously in the military. I did ROTC when I was in college. I came in as an officer, served my time for that payment of school, and then I applied to medical school, and then I later applied for what is called a Health Profession Scholarship Program, which is HPSP. And what that is I got to go, similarly to Nicole, to a civilian medical school, and the military paid for that. In addition to the tuition, they pay for supplies, books, and they also pay for my medical while I'm in medical school. And so after that, then you go into normal internship and residency, and that could be either civilian as well, so out in the community anywhere, or it can be within the military. And the military has some programs for residency and fellowship across the country. So, so when you come into the military as a physician, you're paying back time for the money that they spent to train you. And then that comes with it deployments, which you get sent to hospitals all over the world. You could be in combat situations, though you're not actually fighting, but you are caring for people who have had injuries, blast injuries, things like that relating to combat. And so I would say that those are unique situations to the military. Of course, if you're an emergency physician or if you work in trauma or things like that, you're going to have similar experiences to what a military physician, any military physician experiences. I will say that for Nicole's question, the unique part that is, I would say, more positive than it is negative is that the leadership experience that gets attached to your being a physician and your physician role. So currently I am a nephrologist, but I am also, well, my primary job is I'm the chief of medical staff for one of our outpatient clinics. In the civilian sector, that's a chief medical officer. So it's basically the senior medical doctor within a hospital. So I get to enforce policy. I ensure safety and quality within the hospital, within the physicians, and not just physicians, any credentialed provider within that hospital. So I've had a unique and early exposure to leadership, I would say, whereas in the civilian sector, that may come later. And I think that helps me be a better physician because I am aware of all the quality and the background things that are going on and what make a hospital run, as opposed to just focusing narrowly on my specialty. And so for that, I am grateful to the military. But Nicole, anything that you have, any questions, I don't want to belabor everyone and hold you hostage to talk about the military. However, I did send you my email. So if you have any questions that come up, you can feel free to email me about anything.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Okay, so we're winding down. We have 2 minutes left with our time. And to close out, we'd like each one of our lovely panelists to give us one word to describe the future of medicine for women.
Promising.
I'm going to say I'm hoping it's promising because people are more aware. But I think there need to be more women, so we need to start pulling up some other women, so we can all be there together.
I would say exciting.
I would say it is bright. And you said one word, but I have to explain. It is bright. It is bright. There are more women coming up. There are more people, I would say, in medicine who believe in balance. There are people with families. I believe that everything is going to improve. We're going to have situations where there are women leaders in hospitals. They're going to make changes that are going to benefit the profession for years to come. There's going to be daycares in hospitals. There's going to be time off. There's going to be more virtual care, as we've seen it we've seen it flourish during this pandemic. I think that the future for women in medicine is definitely bright.
That's awesome. I'm super happy to hear that. We're getting a bunch of thank yous in the chat, and happy International Women's Day. So thank you again to the Office of Diversity and Community Relations for hosting the event today, as we highlight the importance of women in this field. And thank you everyone for attending. And again, the presentation is recorded, so you'll all have access to that. And again, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to our lovely panelists. Wonderful advice. I would like to ask the panelists if you could stay on for a couple of minutes after 1 o'clock. Let all of our lovely guests leave and we'll talk to you afterwards. But again, thank you everyone for joining. Happy International Women's Day and enjoy the rest of your Monday.